You know, the world of investing never, ever sits still. What worked 10 years ago or even 2 years ago might not cut it today, especially for the modern Indian investor. So, what's the actual playbook for success right now? Well, we're about to find out. We're going to distill a whole decade's worth of wisdom into one powerful guide. So, what's our guide for all this? Well, check this out. It's the special 10th anniversary issue of the Economic Times Wealth. I want you to think of this as a blueprint, a real roadmap for building wealth in today's India. And we're going to unpack its most important lessons, starting with a number that, well, it just might shock you. All right, let's kick things off with a number that'll make you sit up straight. $29 billion. That is the incredible amount of money Indians are now sending abroad to invest every single year. To put that in perspective, that's more than double what it was just back in 2019. I mean, this isn't just some small trend, right? This is a full-blown financial revolution. And that brings up two really critical questions. How on earth did this massive shift happen? And maybe even more importantly, where is all that capital actually going? And that leads us right into our first big topic, the absolute explosion of global investing from India. It's a pretty fascinating story, really. A story of policy, ambition, and technology all coming together at the perfect time. So, how did we get here? This timeline tells the whole story. It all revolves around something called the Liberalized Remittance Scheme, or LRS. Just look at the progression here. It started with a pretty modest $25,000 annual limit back in 2004. Then it just kept climbing until it hit $250,000. Every single increase just opened the floodgates a little bit wider, creating this torrent of capital that we're seeing today. Okay, so the money's flowing out, but where to? This chart is just fascinating. For every $100 invested abroad, a massive $68 goes directly into individual U.S. stocks. ETFs, which are all about diversification, are a really distant second. This tells us something huge. It's not just generic global investing. It's a very, very specific bet on American companies. And which companies are we talking about? Oh, it's literally a who's who of Silicon Valley. We're talking about the tech giants that basically run our digital lives. Nvidia, Meta, Microsoft, Apple, Tesla. Indian investors are buying what they know, and more importantly, what they believe is going to keep shaping the future of the global economy. All right, so that's the global game. But what about building wealth right here at home? Let's bring it back to India, because this brings us to the modern investor's domestic toolkit. When you look at the Indian market, the strategy really comes down to two powerful pillars. You can see them right here in these lists from the magazine. On one hand, you have individual stocks. That's for your high growth potential. And on the other, you've got mutual funds for diversified, professionally managed growth. Let's dig into what's actually working in both of these categories. You know, looking at the top stock picks shows some really cool strategies at play. You've got investors who are chasing incredible growth, like with multi-commodity exchange. Then you have the value hunters, the ones finding companies like Power Finance Corporation that have a super low price-to-earnings ratio. Basically, the stock is cheap compared to its profits. Then you've got folks looking for income, with high dividend stocks like RCE. And of course, you have the old faithfuls, the trusted blue chips like HDFC Bank that are always a portfolio staple. And how about mutual funds? Well, the returns have been nothing short of spectacular. This chart perfectly shows the power of different parts of the market. I mean, large cap funds give a solid 18% average return over 3 years, which is great. But just look at the small caps. The Nippon India Small Cap Fund delivered a jaw-dropping 32.8% return, annualized. It really highlights a key principle, right? Smaller companies often have way more room to grow, and that can lead to some incredible returns. So we've talked a lot about investing capital, investing your money, but let's take a step back and ask a more fundamental question. Where does that capital even come from? The answer, my friends, is the single greatest wealth-generating asset you will ever own. Your career. This quote from the article just hits the nail on the head. It perfectly captures what the new professional world is all about. The old rules of just having a degree and some experience, well, they aren't enough anymore. Today's economy demands a totally different set of skills. So, what are these timeless rules for success? First, it's all about outcomes, not just being busy. Deliver results people can measure. Second, build trust. Your reputation is your most valuable professional currency, period. Third, never forget the power of human connection. You have to nurture that network. Fourth, learning isn't a one-time thing. It's a continuous process that gives you leverage. And finally, take ownership. The people who really move up the ladder are the ones who act like owners. If you can master these, you'll build the financial engine to power all of your investments. Okay, so you're earning well and you're investing smartly. You're building this amazing financial house. But there's one final piece to this puzzle, the foundation. Let's talk about building a solid base to protect everything you're creating. And seriously, I cannot stress this point enough. Chasing high returns without a safety net, it's like building a skyscraper on sand. It's just not going to work. The foundation always comes first, and that foundation is made of smart, secure financial planning. And this foundation, it starts with the basics, like fixed deposits. But even here, being smart pays off. You might think all FDs are the same, right? Well, think again. A quick look at the data shows that simply choosing the right bank, like DCB Bank here, can make a pretty significant difference in your returns, especially for senior citizens. And that safety net isn't just one thing. It's a whole toolkit of instruments. We're talking about high-interest government schemes for specific goals, and we're also talking about securing your biggest asset, your home, with the best loan you can find. Think of each one of these as another brick in your financial fortress. So there you have it, the modern Indian investor's playbook. Invest globally, master the tools at home, build your career like it's a wealth engine, and then lock it all down with a solid foundation. We've laid out the how, all based on a decade of wisdom. So the only question left is the big one. What are you going to build with it? What will your wealth look like in 2040? The moves you make today are going to be the answer.